It was the mid-90s and the PlayStation was just picking up steam. Kids like myself were putting down their Sega Genesis controllers in favor of crisp 32-bit graphics full of vivid color and classy animation. Leading the charge were games like Duke Nukem 3D and 2 Extreme, but there is one game in particular that stands out in a fuzzy orange package. A platformer with visually tantalizing graphics and a soundtrack that sounds like it's played by a band of tribal musicians. It's Crash Bandicoot, the mutated marsupial from the Wumpa archipelago southeast of Australia, and he's on a mission to stop the evil Doctor Neo Cortex, the owner of the islands, and his henchman Dr. Nitrous Brio from performing Mangala-like experimentation on Crash's sweetheart. Conceived during a cross-country trip from Boston to LA, co-creators Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin decided they'd set their sights on their favorite gaming genre, platformers. The times were a-changing and 3D rendering was the name of the game. Realizing that instead of a profile of the character centered on the screen the entire time, they would have to transition to a behind-the-back approach that would be their 3D platformer. Thus, the humorous code name was applied, Sonic's Ass Game. Dorky names like Willy Wombat were being thrown around, but thankfully the species and name changed to Crash Bandicoot, and the name stuck forever in PlayStation lore. Crash sets out on his journey through lush jungles, lost cities, and exhaust-choked factories, spinning away at his enemies a la Tasmanian Devil, in his polygonal, multi-tiered adventure developed by Naughty Dog and released by Sony Computer Entertainment. The title was so popular and visually and aurally brilliant that it gained success all across the world, and especially in Japan, where Crash became the first Western-conceived platformer game to become commercially successful, selling over 500,000 units. It's a result of Andy Gavin doing his homework first, exposing himself to Japanese manga and anime, and also to platformer heroes from Japan that proved to be fan favorites. Crash Bandicoot uses the graphical capacity of the PlayStation to astounding new heights. Jungle levels are living and breathing, full of rushing streams and quote-unquote soft lily pads that give way to Crash's weight. Enemies that remind you of 3D Mario monster flowers and Koopa Troopas, and tribal themes that make you feel as if you are on a distant island nation of the Pacific Rim. I feel like Crash Bandicoot really turned me on to game music as well. Composed by none other than Mutato Musica, the brainchild of Devo headman Mark Mothersbaugh, the score consists of electronic and tribal rhythms, combined with a dash of sound effects appropriate for each level. Crash Bandicoot is one hell of a challenge, especially if you are trying to clear each level with their respective gems. Nonetheless, even if you are failing to reach clean sheet status, you'll still have a blast with Crash's variety of stages. Apart from the typical platformers, you'll also run from rogue boulders like Indiana Jones while dodging obstacles and avoiding bottomless pits. On a more comical note, the stage Hog Wild will begin with a mischievous look from our spiky-haired hero, followed by a romp through the jungle upon piggyback. The success of the first Crash gave way to myriad sequels, including Crash Team Racing. I'm of the opinion that each sequel, however, never matched the fun I've had in the past with the first Crash. The fact that such a game could be made this way after a lifetime with 8 and 16-bit was such a surprise to me. It's like they say, you never forget your first, and in this case of the 3D platformers, Crash Bandicoot fits the bill for this phrase entirely.